Guys.
Yeah.
Still going
Hi,
strong.
everybody. Hello. Thanks for coming out.
Sean, how does four-time personal Oscar nominee sound right now for you?
It's incredible. I'm still processing it. I'm still processing Can, so it's going to be a while until I can fully process this one. Yeah, it's wonderful, and the fact that I think the editing thing means a lot to me. The editing nom, because they all do, obviously, but the edit, for me, the editing is such a vital part. I consider it, a third of my process, of my vision. The writing, directing, editing, it makes the whole. So to be recognized for that is really special.
You make your films independently. This was your largest scale film, and by that I mean well under $10 million. And I am curious, going from Cannes to where we are now, the incredible success this film has had, what it means to you that it is this movie. You've been making films for many years, how you've sort of wrapped your head around this film receiving such a intense embrace.
Oh, well, that's difficult to answer. Let's just say I had the most incredible team. And so I really am happy that the incredible work that they did is being recognized. My cast and crew did it for me, So it warms my heart to know that this team is being recognized for this work, I guess, if that makes sense.
Mikey, how about for you? How has the last 6 months, 7 months been on this ride with this film? I would imagine even just getting to talk about it and experience people's reactions deepens your relationship to it a little bit.
Yeah, well, hi everyone. Thank you so much for being here. It's been so interesting. I've never quite done anything like this before. And we've been able to go to so many interesting places and premiere our film in different countries and get such a wide variety of responses. And so I'm really lucky to have this experience with this film in particular, because it's one that's always been very, very special to me. So it's been a whirlwind. It simultaneously feels like it's gone by really quickly and then also slowly too at times. So yeah, it's been wonderful.
Samantha and Alex, I wonder if you could maybe take us back to the beginnings of mounting this film, what the initial challenges were in terms of production, in terms of getting this thing off the ground, making it as you needed to make it, because even though, again, this was a slightly larger scale for you guys and you've worked together before, it's still an independent film that you had to really fight to get the vision as you hoped for.
We never have enough money on these films, so we know going in that we're gonna have to figure it out and get creative, and so yeah, we budgeted as best we could, knowing we were gonna have to find room, in every phase, get creative at every phase. But as Sean sort of touched on, we just had such an incredible, committed crew to this, on this film, that everybody was just so gung-ho and just trying to make every bit work along the way, so we're really grateful for that.
Yeah, working with Sean, there's always a lot of surprises along the way that are really hard to budget for. But we also think that with that room that there is for surprises and serendipity, that's what also kind of makes the movie special. So we used a lot of our funds to get more days, which is something that's really important, is time. And yeah, we had a small crew. We interviewed everyone individually, met every single person, because even one toxic person can ruin the whole thing, especially in such a small crew. And even though it was hard, it was a joy. At the end of every day, we would go home and be like, oh my gosh, we did this day. Yeah. And then we wake up for the next one.
Yeah, but we're really proud of that. Like what we can put on the screen, and being one of the lowest budgeted Best Picture nominations this year. It's like, it means something to us. Like we don't have the resources that everybody does. So to be able to make something that's in that at the same, being nominated for the same award as Wicked, you know, it's like, we're like, all right. Not sure why those things are on the same level, but good, you know?
What were some of the biggest surprises that Sean threw at you this time around?
One was, there were so many. But one of them was, there are Russians in this film, but he wanted Russians from Russia at the beginning of a war, which was a challenge. There was a shot that it was from the air. It was funny. He was like, oh, I want this one from the air. And then we were like, oh, okay. And he's like, but I don't want a drone. I want a helicopter because I want it to feel like it's 1974. We said, okay.
Yeah, so then I got up there in a helicopter with a camera operator, and that's not a joke. We actually did that, and we got the shot, and it worked, So that shot where Mikey and Mark Adelstein, who is Yvonne, are on the patio, and we see the city in the background at the end of the montage. But yeah, no, yeah, Sean likes to rewrite.
It could be
too,
argued that shot could be done with a drone, okay? But I want to have that organic feel. It's a zoom. You can feel the camera operator doing that. It's a zoom and then a pull out with the helicopter. That's the way it used to be done. That, the world is yours, Scarface, that shot, that's what I was going for. Drew, I always tell my wonderful cinematographer, Drew Daniels, that even though these films are contemporary and these stories are about now, I want it to feel like classic Hollywood. I want it to feel like 1974, the best year of cinema.
And this film has some direct references to classic films. One of the things I love about this movie is some of them are a little bit more obvious, some of them are very subtle, and they exist right alongside incredibly original script and incredibly original filmmaking. How do you figure out that balance on a movie like this?
Well, some of them are just not, and some of them are acknowledged. Like, I thank Jess Franco and Soledad Miranda in the end credits because The Red Scarf definitely was influenced by the work they did together on Vampire Lesbos and She Kills in Ecstasy. So that, it's true though, but the other stuff kind of I realized later, to tell you the truth. And a lot of them were 80s references that I realized were subconscious nods. For example, I realize now how close this is to, or how there are similarities to Coming to America. Galena coming off that airplane is very similar to James Earl Jones saying, take me to the Waldorf Astoria. It's stuff like that. And I think it's just because, these films meant a lot to me growing up, and I still watch a film a day. I'm a cinephile, and as a filmmaker, it's hard not for those influences to come out in some way.
You cast your films, and it's a very important part of your process as well. Over the years of making movies, how have you figured out being an actor's director, figuring out the relationship you want to have with your actors, and then how did that inform your work with, say, Mikey on ANORA?
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, my first film, I was basically going, okay, let's do it again, and better this time, or do good in this one. It took me a long time, because it's not stuff I was taught in school. So it took me making several films, and I think around Prince of Broadway, where I was able to really work, maybe Charles Jang on Takeout, which was my second feature, is when I was able to really spend time with my main actor and start to figure out how, to communicate about the craft, about what will make the best performance, and that led up to now, where Mikey and I really had a lot of time in prep to really talk about things and break it down. And then we also had a wonderful time rehearsing, which is something that now we buy time for to allow for way more rehearsal and prep, just to give us that one-on-one, to give me the one-on-one with my actors, and have time to workshop, so that we know they know their characters, I know their characters before we start, before day one.
How would you, Mikey, describe Sean as a collaborator on this movie?
I've never worked with someone quite like Sean, and I mean that in a really complimentary, positive way. he is a true collaborator. He really welcomed me into the making of this film in a bigger way than I had ever been asked to be a part of before. He really cared about my opinion. He wanted me to be a part of lots of aspects of making this movie. And so I remember the first meeting, sitting down with him, Sean and Sammy. Sean was like, "So, is there anything you want to do in this movie?" And it was such a shocking question to me because no one had ever asked me that before, let alone like want to write a film with me in mind. And it was so, I had no idea what to say. I was like, I don't know you, I'm not sure. And it took me a little bit to really, maybe like a couple weeks to really feel comfortable enough to like share my opinions, because I had never been, I don't know, I never had that experience before. But he's, I mean, I could keep talking and talking about Sean as a director because he's really one of the most special people I've ever worked with. He has a wicked sense of humor that is really just like makes me laugh, and he's very kind, sensitive director, very like gentle director. Sorry if that's embarrassing, I don't know. And just very trusting. He really trusts his actors to you know, deliver their performance and really bring to life their characters. And I always knew that he was there to guide me along. Like if I strayed too far, he'd be able to reel me back in. And I felt like it was a true collaboration between us. And it was wonderful.
Was there a moment where you're like, I don't know how he's gonna feel about this? You had to do a given scene?
No, because I think that, I mean, like, I had done so much work on this character. I knew exactly who she was, and Sean, like, I never felt that way. I was always willing to take extreme risks or really go for a joke, and if it doesn't work out, then it doesn't work out, but at least you tried, you know? Or whatever you feel in the moment you have to do. I felt free enough and comfortable enough to do that. I knew there would be no judgment, it would just be support. So yeah, but I would sometimes definitely be like going off the rails in terms of improvisation, and like the Drew, our cinematographer, sometimes in my foreground the camera would be shaking because he was like laughing, and I was like, okay, maybe I'm like going too far in a different direction.
Probably tells you it's working though, right?
I don't know. Sean says that sometimes when people are laughing on set, then you know it's not going to be funny.
If they're laughing too hard, yeah. Well, we had actually our sound recordist was a Russian speaker, and so was our script supervisor. So sometimes I would look to them, and if they were chuckling, I knew that at least the Russian stuff was working. But I just wanted to also say that, you know, it's because my incredible cast was so just so talented and brought so much to the table that it made my job easy. And I've never seen an actor put in as much work as Mikey put into this role. I mean, starting months and months early with everything to prep on every level. It really showed true dedication, and that's a gift. That's an absolute gift to a filmmaker, to have an actor who is just as dedicated as you are to the project.
We didn't have great food. You know, like a lot of that stuff was,
Yeah.
We were like, you know what? We're okay, as long as the crew's okay, and we're okay. We would, you know, I mean, everyone would eat, and we'd never had anyone be uncomfortable, but we did as much as we could to make sure that our limited budget was all on the screen.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's some producers in the room. You just got to make deals. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you just gotta.
Favors.
Yeah, you just gotta try to get things for what you can afford, and try to get them to the number, and then if you can't, then figure out some solution. But then also invest in things that are gonna make the movie better too. You know, so sometimes you have to spend a little bit more on something that you wouldn't ordinarily. Like, you know, like the private airplanes and these things. Like, these are big ticket, you know, locations and whatnot. So money had to go in those places, but then there's other places where we were very cheap. You know, like when we were running around Brighton Beach Ave, you know, looking for Yvonne. Like, we're just on the street, just like grabbing, stealing, like just going to locations that didn't know we were shooting, just like surprising people, asking for forgiveness, asking for releases after the fact, you know? It's like very much a guerrilla style filmmaking, which is very fun because, you know, Sean with his roots, it's like we're able to, you know, yes, it's more money, but still not that much, but we're still able to take these like tangerine tactics and do them at this level, and then spend on other scenes, you know, so there's like, it's a great combination for me. It's like exciting that we're not graduating to a point where we can't have this flexibility, where we can still maintain this sort of independent, run and gun, sort of indie sensibility, but just with a little bit more money, where we have a little more flexibility. That excites me the most. Yeah.
I
And you
feel the
take-
energy in the movie.
Yeah, I was going to say, you take opportunities when you get them. Like we were 9 months early when we were first doing our first trip out to Brighton Beach. We were out there, and it just happened to be that Euro was in town, so we brought Euro out to Brighton Beach and did the whole tour. And we were in Tatiana's, which is this iconic restaurant on the boardwalk that we shot at. And suddenly he's the one swarmed because they know his work from overseas. He's a star. And suddenly, it was in that moment while everybody was taking photos, and we looked at the owner and we're like, "Can we shoot a movie here with him, please?" So yeah, he got us that location.
You mentioned feeling pretty gratified by the editing nomination. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about your process there, because it's pretty unique in that you take time after you shoot the film before you get into the editing. So why do you do that, and what does that do for you in the process of, say, making ANORA?
Yeah, well, you know, yes, and I've had the luxury to do this with all of my films, so it's something that we work into the schedule. We had a year to edit because of the Cannes deadline, so I take about 3 months off, and that allows me to get enough distance from the film where I almost forget what I shot, and then I get back into it, and I edit from the first shot, first frame. I don't do an assemble. I go right to almost to a fine cut, and I won't move on to the next scene until I've polished the scene I'm on, including temp, sound design, and everything, just so I feel the film growing and I can see it evolve in front of us. Also, it allows me with this film, especially in which I was playing with tonal shifts and almost genre shifts. I needed to feel that. I needed to feel the pacing and the flow and see if that stuff would be working. You know, we go some places to sometimes to very broad comedy places, you know, almost sitcom level and like in the courtroom and stuff. But I wouldn't probably know that unless I saw the film play out up to that point. So that's my process. It's insane. It's insane, and I drive them crazy because they won't know whether we have a good film or not on our hands until the last day of the edit when I put that last scene on. Yeah, but it's also wonderful to work with Sam and Coco because we're all on the same page. They understand my sensibility. They are wonderful writers themselves, and and they're the only ones I share the edit with. There's no test screenings or anything like that, and so nobody sees it until nobody sees the final until after they've seen it, and they're with me the whole way, giving me notes and being there to encourage and great feedback. So yeah, it's a pleasure to work with these two.
Scene, she's gone through so much over the course of a short period of time, and she hasn't expressed any of it really. And so coming to this last scene, it's this shared moment between two people who are finally able to communicate in an honest way, but just without any words spoken. And so how do you go about filming something like that? And Sean and I had many conversations about this scene, and it was one that I was really nervous about because I wanted to do her justice. I wanted her to have that moment of release, and I think I was just so frustrated and stuck in my head about it that there came a point during the filming of that scene, which took many days for lots of different reasons, where I was like, I just got out of the car and I was like, I need to talk to Sammy. And Sammy and I started having a conversation, and I remember I was like actually like crying tears, and I was like, I can't cry, and she was like, okay, well, you're crying right now. She's like, but let's talk about something. And I was like, I think I just need to ground myself in a different way. I need to pull something from my own personal life that I think is just gonna, sharpen that internal razor blade so that I can express everything.